Hi everyone, it's Rachel here from the Shades of Orange. Today I want to do a review of an audiobook that I'm absolutely obsessed about. I want to tell you all about it so that you can go out and read it too because it is so much fun. And that is You by Caroline Kepnes. I just finished this audiobook and I'm completely obsessed with it. Now the brief synopsis is this is a book about a man named Joe who meets this woman Beck and becomes absolutely obsessed with her and begins stalking her. The entire book is told from Joe's perspective, and it's actually told in second person, so everything is described as you did this and you were here and I saw you doing this, and it's all told from his perspective watching this woman Beck. The perspective is so much fun to read. I worried when I first picked this up that the second person perspective might seem gimmicky, but it worked incredibly well in this case. It was so creepy getting to see this woman's life through the eyes of Joe. As well, it also created an unreliable narrator situation, which I absolutely love in books. Because Joe is absolutely obsessed with this woman and assumes that she must love him in return, his perspective is completely skewed. I never really knew if I could trust what he was saying about her was true or if it was kind of a fictionalized interpretation of her actions. If you're like me and love rooting for the bad guys in books and movies, you will absolutely love the character of Joe in this story. He is creepy, intelligent, complex, and just balls crazy, and he made the most fantastic narrator. Reading from his perspective was so much fun. He's not exactly likable, but I found myself rooting for him and almost wanting him to get the girl. It's bizarre how he really got into my head. Now, my one criticism of the story is that it does require some suspension of disbelief. The story is really larger than life, over the top, and there's a lot of crazy events that happen, and some characters do some pretty unrealistic things, but if you can get past that, you'll be just like me and get so pulled into the story that you just won't care. If you really struggle with unbelievable circumstances in books, you might have some problems with this one, but for me, there were times where I thought, well, that's not really realistic. That wouldn't really happen, but I honestly just didn't care when reading this. It was just so much fun. It was so creepy, exactly the kind of dark, twisted book that I love to read. Now, just to let you know, this book may not be for everyone. There is quite a bit of explicit language and explicit sexual content. It's probably one of the dirtiest mainstream books I've ever read. I listened to this as an audiobook, and let's just say that I kept my headphones on the entire time when I was listening. It's the kind of thing where you want a bit of privacy because it's pretty dirty at times, and I just did not want other people knowing what I was listening to. But if you can get past that, it's such a good story. I keep saying that, but I was completely obsessed. I haven't been this hooked by a piece of audio since listening to the Serial podcast, which, you know, I was completely gripped about that. And I had that same gripping, addicted experience listening to this. I cannot wait to read more from this author. I just love this book so much. I gave it 4.5 stars. Now, I have to point out, because I listened to this as an audiobook, my review is heavily influenced by that. One of the biggest reasons I love this book was because of the narrator. It was narrated by Santino Fontana, who I understand is the voice of Prince Han from Frozen. He was such an amazing audiobook narrator. He performed this book amazingly. Normally I don't like when books are performed, but this was so good. If you listen to audiobooks, you have to pick this up. Please give it a try. Listen to the sample. I was completely hooked. I'm not quite sure if I'd like this book as much if I had read it in physical form. I feel like the physical book might come across as a little bit trashy. The writing itself isn't anything amazing, but the audiobook was just so well performed that it just was one of those books that I could not put down. So if you are going to pick it up, I highly recommend try the audiobook form. I don't know if you'll have the same experience if you're reading the book, but as an audiobook, it was so good. So hopefully I got a few more people excited to pick this one up. If you have any questions or have read it, please leave a comment down below. I would recommend this book to anyone who's a fan of the suspense or thriller genres, who aren't afraid of a little bit of racy content, and just are looking for that nail biter audiobook that is just gonna hook them in, pull at your emotions, and honestly leave you with a giant book hangover because it is so good. If you're up for a book like this, please pick this one up. It is just easily one of the most fun books I've read in 2015 so far. That's everything for today. Talk to you again soon. Okay, goodbye.